Today we're talking about air rolls in Rocket League. So there are three types of air rolls, which are actually two. One is the normal air roll, which I can show you here. Normal air roll, you just press one button and your car is allowed to roll. So you can see here, you can roll left, roll right, you can roll slowly, you can roll fast, and this is normal air roll. Then you have air roll right, so you press a button and you get air roll right. Then you got air roll left, where you press another button and you roll left. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Okay, what are the differences between the two? So first thing is that air roll left and right, or also called directional air rolls, are just binary. So basically you press a button and you get the full extent of the air roll in that direction as fast as possible, as soon as possible. So if you go here, you just press a button and you get the air roll. Then we have roll, pitch, and yaw. So what are roll, pitch, and yaw? Roll is just this, the rolling motion of your car on the straight axis. Then you have pitch, which is this. This is the rotation axis of transverse to your car. And then you have the yaw axis, which is the one that goes upwards from your car. These are the three different directions into which you can rotate your car in the three-dimensional space. So why am I telling you this? Because with normal air roll, you can only control two of these axes. You can control roll, of course, so you can do the normal roll, and you can also control pitch, so you can do this. This is pitch alone, this is roll alone. If you combine the two by going like this on the stick, you can do the two things together. This is the maximum you can do in your normal air roll. Now, if you use air roll left or air roll right, you can also control the yaw motion by using the air roll and also the two directions, as you can see here. Now, this means that directional air roll has one more degree of freedom, so you can control your car over one more axis. This means that you can achieve better positionings of your car in the space. The only downside of this is that directional air roll is binary, so basically you press a button and you get the full extent of it. But it's been found out that if you bind air roll left or air roll right on your triggers, it's actually not binary anymore. So basically you get a lesser extent of the full speed if you press slightly your trigger. So as you can see here, if I slightly press very softly my right trigger where I have bound air roll right, you can see that my car rolls way slower. So this is what happens. You can see from here, I'm just slightly pressing it and you can see that my car rolls really slowly. And at the same time, I can still use the directions of yaw, so I can control all three axes at the same time. So this means that basically you have the control of normal air roll because you don't get the full extent all the time of the speed of the rotation, and you also get the control of the yaw axis that you get with the directional air roll. This is why analog air roll is the future of Rocket League air roll. This is the full extent of a tornado spin. If instead you use less of the throttle, so less of the directional air roll in this new analog way, you can get a much softer rotation of your car and over the roll axis. So you get much less than this and you get much more of this. If I gently tap it, you can see that I get this slight rotation. This is especially useful when you are in those situations that require extreme precision in the air. Usually you would quickly tap it in order to achieve the same thing, but instead it's way more optimized to just press it less instead of just tapping it. It's kind of like on keyboard and mouse. If you want to gently steer, you can't do it. You either steer full speed or you don't steer at all. So what you do on keyboard and mouse is quickly tapping the direction you want to steer in, just like this. And that is not optimized. So this is the same thing. You just tap it less and you get this kind of rotation. Look at this. You cannot achieve this in any other way than with analog air roll, right, in this case. And the same can be said with the air roll left. This allows you to have extreme precision on your air roll shots, which is usually something I still use normal air roll to do, because you can go with different speeds. You can roll really slowly like this, or you can roll pretty fast like this. But now with analog, you can actually do this the way you want. You press slower and you go for a slower roll, and you also have the ability to go for a tornado if you need for your arrow shot. What I did was to use the bindings together with my old ones. It's not necessary, but it's good if you are in a transition period where you don't feel confident in switching this much your control scheme, and you want to keep the old bindings for arrow left and arrow right, while also adding arrow left to your left stick and arrow right to your right stick. How did I do this? Let me show you real quick. This one. Documents, my games, Rocket League, TA game config. Then you go in this TA input.ini. Then you scroll over, here you can see the PC bindings, but we're looking for gamepad bindings. And here you can see the ones we're interested in. These four. When you open this file for the first time, you will only see roll right with a closed bracket and roll left with a closed bracket. What I did was adding another of this roll right here, and I added Xbox Type S left thumbstick, which is my usual button that I use for arrow right. Of course, this is also bound to the back of my controller that has back buttons, but this is basically what you do. You just copy and paste it, and you put another key here to have two different buttons doing the same action. So the first one is the right trigger, and the second one is the left thumbstick in my case, so that I can also use my old bindings in conjunction with the new ones. The same goes for left. Arrow left, I just copied, pasted it, and I put it on Y, which is my usual arrow left binding. So this is how you double bind. Then if you get back here, what is the final control scheme that I came up with? So first we have arrow right on the right trigger, so we can achieve this kind of motion. So then we have arrow left on the left stick, on the left trigger, sorry. Then what we have a power slide and normal air roll on RB or R1 in PlayStation controllers. Then we have jump on A normally, ball cam on and off on X or square for PlayStation controllers, so that you can tap them at the same time. As you can see here, it's pretty easy to just tap these two buttons at the same time. For example, when you're going for air roll shots. Then use item for rumble. If you play rumble, you also need one button for that. And I used this one, okay, which is bound to my back button, by the way. What you see in the controller overlay is not accurate in this case. I use it like this by pressing with my pinky. Then we need something for the rear view, and I put it on this one. So with my ring finger, I can look back. So the advantages of this is what we talked about. Mostly the ability to fully control your yaw axis during flight. Also, this control scheme in general, if you have a controller with back buttons, is extremely solid. You never have to use one finger to do multiple things. Each finger only has one thing to do, which is easy on the brain. The disadvantages are, while you're holding throttle or brake, if you front flip, this happens. This time I front flipped, but arrow right is basically the combination of roll, like normal arrow, full speed, plus a right direction. So if I just do a double jump like this, I get a side flip. So if I do a front flip, I get a diagonal flip. So how do you cancel this? There are two ways. The first is what I use is just speed flipping, because when I speed flip, I press my normal air roll, and normal air roll overrides directional air roll. So basically I do this and I just get my speed flip. Speed flip this way, speed flip the other way, and you just cancel the directional air roll and nothing bad happens. The other thing is not holding your throttle or brake. when you're flipping, just like this. Or when you're double jumping, you need to do this. So those are the things that you need to keep in mind when changing to this layout. The last thing is something that not a lot of people will be interested in, but it is that you cannot chain dash normally, because as we said, you're holding one direction. So right now I'm holding arrow right, so my car is going right if I flip. So if I chain dash, you can see that my car flips on the right. So what do I do to counter this? I press arrow left at the same time, but my arrow left is on my left trigger. So if I press this, I stop throttling. So what do I do to counter this? I have the double input, so I have the double binding. So I press arrow left, and now my arrow right is cancelled, and now I can chain dash one way or the other way, as you can see here. So this is how you overcome it. And then yeah, I have boost here on my ring finger on the left hand, and then yeah, as we talked about, we have rumble power-ups here and rear view here. And arrow left, I put it on this one. You can put it on the L1 or LB. I prefer this one because I have a better grip on the controller when I do this. It doesn't matter. Basically, you use normal air roll just to cancel the directional air roll when you speed flip, in order to avoid doing this. You just speed flip around, you just double jump, and yeah, this is pretty much it.